All right, so this is part two of Rise of Big Business lecture. So if for some reason you clicked on the wrong one, you should be looking at the first video first. All right, so anyway, we left off here, as you can see here, looking at the political cartoon that was written. Just analyze the photo, guys. Look at right here. You see who is this guy? What could be maybe be a clue? Oh, look right here on the collar, Rockefeller. What industry was Rockefeller involved in? He was oil, Cleveland Standard Oil or Standard Oil Company, oil. So you see all these oil barrels off over here. You see this black smoke when oil is burned and causes black smoke. I think this is the Capitol building where laws are made. Oh, here's the White House. And here is politicians, and there's money signs. He's slipping them money. He's bribing them. He has them in his pocket. So all these companies like Standard Oil and Carnegie, they all had involvement. They all had politicians in their back pocket. They all were paying them off, and they got discounts. They got favorable laws to allow them to operate um, as they wanted. So all of these big business leaders, they were just a product of the environment of the times. Like that's what I said. Going back to before, the winners versus the losers in one of the previous lectures. Um, this was a time period that benefited the rich. It benefited those that were in business because really there were very little regulations against them. Rockefeller was able to operate as really he saw fit. This cartoon really poked fun at Rockefeller and really exposed a lot of kind of what was going on in some of these big business settings and how they were able to make amass their millions. All right, so other things, social Darwinism. You may have heard in science class Darwin's theory, very similar concept, but he used Darwin's theory to explain business. This all centered on the concept of natural selection and survival of the fittest, meaning that the government should not interfere in business. That it was up to the individuals. The strong are going to push along. They're going to get rich, while the weak are going to stay poor and stay like the average Joe, essentially. So this was termed in social Darwinism that the rich are stronger work ethics. They're going to move ahead compared to the weak are going to stay poor. So a very, very, very important vocabulary term, laissez-faire. Think of this, hands-off approach. Laissez-faire capitalism, meaning that at this time in the Gilded Age, the government really didn't get involved in business. They let businesses operate really as they wanted. There was no labor laws. So if you were a child at 5 years old, you could work in the factory. There was no laws against that. Like now we have minimum wage. We have to pay workers eight something dollars an hour. Back then there was no minimum wage. If you got hurt in the job, there was no benefits to support their family if you got hurt in the job. Now we do. So as I said before, these business leaders, these business owners, were able to operate really without a whole lot of rules and laws to regulate them. If you wanted to dump oil into a river, you could. There were no laws against it. So um, this was definitely a time period that's going to benefit the owner of a company. So that dealt with social Darwinism, survival of the fittest, essentially. All right, so something called the Gospel of Wealth. This was written by Andrew Carnegie. They outlined his belief that the wealthy are the fittest citizens and are therefore responsible to look out for the well-being of the less fortunate. Going back to social Darwinism. Many of these business leaders like Rockefeller and Carnegie believed they got their wealth because they were more fit and better than other citizens, and it was their responsibility to look out for those that were less fortunate because they didn't have like the skill set or the wherewithal or the DNA to really keep up with them. Many industrialists, Rockefeller, Carnegie, many other ones, are going to share their wealth, spend hundreds of millions of their own money to charitable donations. But keep this in mind, this wasn't through welfare, where you give money directly to the poor or you give money to your worker. They donate a lot of their money through starting up museums and libraries and schools. So Carnegie Hall, Andrew Carnegie, he developed the Carnegie Hall. You have schools, libraries, etc., that were developed. So keep in mind, these workers, Carnegie, Rockefeller, they didn't pay their worker very much money, but yet they developed other organizations, other things to um, give away to charity. All right, we'll hold off on that. All right, so anyways, that is it for our lecture. That's part two. We'll end there. Yeah, and we'll be moving on to the next thing.